The Terror Twins stood tall once again on Monday Night Raw as they took out Liv and Dom, and they took out the rest of Judgment Day, and they announced at Bash in Berlin, as Dan Layton so beautifully predicted last week, it will be an intergender tag match of the Terror Twins versus Dom and Liv at Bash in Berlin.
Give me what I want. .gif. Yeah.
I'm Luke Owen, DAD. Welcome to the WrestleTalk podcast review. This is, of course, Dan Layton. Please do press that subscribe button. Give us a little thumbs up as well. Leave a comment down below. And if you want to join us in the chat, join our live chat, join our SWAF Nation, get your thoughts on the show with everyone else. And if you want them read out on the air, WrestleTalk.com/support is the link to click. And then you can check out, you can have your thoughts read out on the air. $5 and above. We'll read out all of them before the end of the show. So, I loved last week's episode of Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
Despite what the comments of last week's video will tell you, I really liked last week's episode of Raw. Everyone seemed to think that I hated last week's episode. I really liked it.
It was the t-shirt you were wearing that said, I hated this episode of Monday Night Raw.
I guess that's what it was. I should stop wearing that.
Yeah, it's a bad t-shirt.
Well, I'm repping my Luke Jacobs merch.
There you go.
Today.
There you go.
Because,
someone went to a wrestling show over the weekend.
They did, and then spent £26 on a t-shirt.
If you ever want to know what Luke has been up to, just if he's got a new t-shirt, it means there was some form of event, some fun event.
Oh man, that Rev Pro show was so good. Though.
Yeah.
Oku MJF was an
your
awesome
call.
match. Yeah, your call.
Felt like one day I'd still like to go there. I haven't been able to go before.
Felt like Michael Oku's goodbye to York Hall.
Interesting.
A little bit.
That's NXT.
That's kind. Well, I mean, potentially elsewhere, but like it's. NXT. I don't know. It's just it felt like it was a goodbye to York Hall. Nina Samuels and Danny Luna had a superb match. Dijak and Robbie X was so great. Luke Jacobs and Trevor Lee was awesome. It was just like Jack Cartwheel and Leon Slater had this incredible match to qualify for the cover box show. I had a really good time. So yeah, it was great. And I bought my Luke Jacobs t-shirt afterwards because I'm such a mark for Luke Jacobs.
And that is why you hated this episode of Monday Night Raw?
Well, to bring us to Monday Night Raw. So I really loved last week's show.
Yeah.
So it was really nice of Triple H to just press Control-C, Control-V for this episode of Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, there was very much a moment where I thought like, oh, I've seen this. But then actually, I remember when I binge watched old episodes of the Attitude Era, and actually very similar things happen. And look, if you're getting the reaction, you might as well.
Well, that's it. Like wrestling, for the past 40 odd years has been a lot of, you can't do banger shows every week. So sometimes you just have to do a little bit of Control-C, Control-V week to week. And this show had the Terror Twins beating up the Judgment Day. It had Randy Orton and Gunther having a promo segment. It had a match with Bron Breakker and Sami Zayn. It had Odyssey Jones with the New Day. Like, some like bits and pieces of sort of furthering storylines.
Yeah.
Other storylines felt like we weren't really moving at all. But at the end of the show, I was like, I had a good time.
I really enjoyed it.
I had a good time with the show.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, this is not an episode. Like last week, I was like, you have got to drop everything and go and watch this episode of Raw. This week, I didn't really have that feeling.
Yeah.
It was just like, if you are watching this anyway, you'll have had a good time. But if you missed it, you may as well just listen to this podcast and catch up.
It's interesting, because there are definitely moments, I think the Gunther and Randa...
Oh, the Gunther and Randa.
Well, I'm going to absolutely be calling him Gunther from now on. But the Gunther and Randy segment I actually thought was really good, and I had a lot to talk about when we get there. I also really liked the Rhea promo at the beginning. I thought Sami and Bron was real good.
That's interesting, because I did not...
You didn't?
I didn't vibe with the Rhea promo.
Oh, I had a good time. But, point being, I don't think it was one that you need to take time out to see. But there are segments where I'm like, there was a real good nugget in there. Dolph Ziggler... excuse me, my apologies, Nick Nemeth. I'm always a stickler for calling them by their current name. It's what it gets on my nerves when you call him Walter. But I should stand, because it feels like, oh, I went to an indie show and I bought a Luke Jacobs t-shirt. Walter. Like, I'm just jealous. So no, I feel like I should refer to him as Nick Nemeth. That is what he currently is known. Was tweeting beforehand like, I'm watching Raw tonight for the first time in 20 years. What should I be excited for? And it was generally one of those things where I was like, honestly, a lot of stuff.
Pretty much everything.
Yeah, like it's a decent. There was a
lineup. Cool
Wyatt Six moment. It is one of those where it's like, listen to the podcast, catch a couple of the highlights on YouTube.
YouTube is where I would say to go to. Is like, you can watch this. The Triple H era has had a lot of this. The Vince era had like none of this, where like there are times where you're like, just don't even watch this show. Like you can catch up via the podcast, and you then know what you're going into next week. But I feel with the Triple H era, there are times where I'm like, this is a YouTube clip show. Like you can just spend your time, go on YouTube, watch the 5-minute clips, and you can really catch up. But it's not like last week's show where I was like, drop everything.
Yeah, you need to
watch the whole show in full because you're going to have an incredible time. But yeah, that's not to say that the show is bad.
No.
It's just, I think nuance within wrestling conversation is lost. That if you just say something is fine, then people assume that you thought it was rubbish.
Well, yeah, but also it's interesting because I think the bar was so low. That what we have here is a really solid, really good episode of TV. But that is so far above where we were that sounds like a downgrade.
Exactly.
Which isn't true.
Yeah. So like if you compare this to an episode from 2014.
We were dreaming of this.
Oh, I would have loved it. If this episode happened in 2014 or 2019 if you were. Actually, do you know what? In 2020, you'd have been like all-timer episode.
And it's the same thing on the other side of the tribe, which is the, AEW side, where their bar was way up here. And then if their shows are down here, they're still good. Right? Still a good episode of TV, but because it's not up there, that sounds like a not faint praise in the way it does with WWE. That actually sounds like you're saying this was trash.
Yeah.
It's such an interest. That's the nuance thing. Actually, what we've got is good. It's quite nice.
It is good. I had a good time with this episode of Raw. But people will hear me say that and be like, Luke hates everything on Monday.
So, well, to that vein, tell me why you hate Rhea Ripley.
Well, I didn't.
Tell me why you actively want Rhea Ripley to be off television forever.
I didn't hate this segment. I didn't actively want Rhea Ripley off television. If anything, I would actually be an advocate for more Rhea Ripley on television. I am a heterosexual male. I'm an advocate for more Rhea Ripley on television.
I think you're limiting it. I think every sexual human being wants more Rhea Ripley on television.
Absolutely, because. They had a lengthy recap, like a 3.5-minute recap of SummerSlam, all the Judgment Day drama of SummerSlam from 2 weeks ago. And then Rhea Ripley makes her entrance and she comes out and she basically just recaps everything we just saw in the video package. And that's when I was like, oh, there's a stinker 2019 about this where I'm not vibing with this. Then Dom and Liv come out, and I guess I'm not the biggest Liv Morgan promo fan, so a lot of that doesn't work for me. Rhea started to get watted by the crowd at one point. So this crowd was awesome all night long. It wasn't last week. It wasn't. Where we were
not everybody can be Baltimore.
Baltimore, that was it. Yeah, not everyone can be Baltimore.
I also have one note for the crowd that I will give you later on.
Yeah.
Who they were a good crowd, but they let me down at one point, and I'll tell you when.
Well, they let me down here. Right. Because they were watting the babyface for no reason either. It's
maybe they were feeling the ropes.
I know I wasn't vibing with this segment, but there's no need to what Rhea Ripley in this segment. She had this line where she said that Dom stabbed me in the back, but he'll have heard this a lot. It wasn't deep enough. Lol.
Hilarious.
Tiny penis.
Sorry, but hilarious.
Liv and Dom
I'm a child.
Appeared up on the within the crowd. And they were like, well, I chose Liv because she treats me like a real man. I can have chicken tendies whenever I want.
It was specifically, she lets me have chicken tendies whenever I want and play video games whenever I want. It was the she lets me. Yeah. So she's not letting you be a man. She's letting you be a child. She's giving you her permission.
Exactly, yeah. It's
really, really good stuff.
It's very funny. But crucially within this, she helped him beat Ray.
Yeah.
And that's an actual, that the first bit there, that's some comedy. That's she lets me eat chicken tendies. She lets me play PlayStation. But seriously, I was able to beat Rey Mysterio because of her. And that's kind of the Liv Morgan story they've had with Judgment Day is because of her, they won the tag titles. Because of her, he beat Rey Mysterio. And then Rhea was like, hey, do you know what?
And Carlito is here.
Rhea's like, I'm proud of you, Dom. You actually stood up for yourself. This is when she was getting watted. And then Liv was like, I've taken everything from you. I took your world title, which I do keep forgetting, and I took your family from you. Your family of thousands of miles away from home, and I've taken away your Judgment Day family. And Rhea's like, well, not all of them. And Damian Priest is up behind them.
Looms out of the dark.
They brawl into the concourse. Then Rhea kind of chases up to them. They all sort of brawl a little bit, make their way back to the ring. And then Carlito of the Judgment Day jumps Damian Priest. They have a match. And Damian Priest wins. It's a pretty decent little match. Afterwards, the Judgment Day attacked Damian Priest again. And then Rhea Ripley's music hit for a second time. She ran down to make the save. And the Terror Twins stood tall. And they announced later in the show, we're getting the intergender tag match. So I think I didn't love the Rhea promo just because it didn't really add anything new. I didn't really love the Liv and Dom promo because it didn't really add anything new outside of some funny comedy. And at the end of it, it was just the Terror Twins stood tall, which is what I saw last week. So this was half an hour of the show. This was the first half an hour of Raw, and it was good because it was good last week. But I already saw all of this last week, so that's why I don't think I was blown away by the segment. If you see what I mean?
No, I do. I think that's fair.
It was good because I really enjoyed the Damian Priest Carlito match. But it wasn't like I was like, oh man, this has got me more hyped now for the match.
I know what you mean. It's kind of interesting. I did like the segment. However, I also felt that it was baggy in places. There are some bits where I'm like, you got landing a burn is great, and I thought she landed a couple.
Good burn.
Dom also got a couple of very funny, self-deprecating without realizing your jokes in there. I really enjoyed that. But every now and again, there is a moment where you've got to follow up the burn somehow, and it almost was a bit too baggy. So I can get that. And I think they would probably say the same thing when they watch it back. When we saw the opening promo, like the recap of what was going on, we had a conversation on the SmackDown review yesterday about Roman Reigns coming in and just battering people, and that's the Roman Reigns that Tempest has wanted for like 10 years or whatever. That's how you make him a babyface. It's why it made such a splash when it was come in, wreck everyone, leave, right at the beginning of this head of the table run. There was the shot of Priest sort of storming down to the ring. I remember when he stormed into the ring to batter Gunther as well. There's an intensity and a vibrancy to that. They've sort of allowed him to play with these ideas of him being just this wrecking ball monster.
I saw that in the match as well.
Exactly.
I saw it so good in that match.
Yeah, and there was a moment where at SummerSlam he bursts out of Gunther's sleeper just to choke. In this moment, there are bits where he's like hitting me, and he sort of hulked up for a moment.
Takes down the straps.
Which I didn't love, but like, that's fine. But the response to it and all of the punching and the slapping, he seems like he's kicked up a gear, and I really love it for him. I'm really into it.
You and I have said on this show before, but like this babyface turn has done. This babyface turn has done more for him than winning the world title did at WrestleMania.
It has, and that's what allows you then to step up and become two-time. I think that's really important.
100%.
I also loved the brawl backstage. I always love a brawl backstage. There's something about popcorn all over the floor that gets ringing every single time.
Not only that, because Raw's always packed at the moment, so it makes it feel even more packed. Yeah. That with every single seat is sold out, and then you split out into the concourse, and there's hundreds of people there as well.
Yeah, and then Rhea's music hitting for a second time. There was a moment where I was like, I've already had it come out, and I want to say clearly, I am someone who, sort of when I want to feel myself a little bit, does the little stomp. Like, I want to be Rhea Ripley. I feel like it's the coolest thing in the world. But we'd already heard it, and then I was like, yeah, but Stone Cold's music hits, and we scream at the glass break. She's got the same thing with the This Is My Brutality, so why not? It's an easy way of getting a big pop.
It's a good way to pop. Like, and it's music designed to pop. Like, This Is My Brutality. I think you even said this in a previous show. Is a glass shatter.
It's a glass shatter. And then her getting her hands on Dom. That having a little hug. I love I want to keep it brother and sister style. I like the idea that they see each other. The male and female platonic relationships are very
it's good. That's not doing
important to me. Let's stick it with that. But
although if this was on Pornhub, then they would probably want to take it in that.
Which we. That's for NXT. But do you remember when Indy Hartwell just talked about how big Dexter Lumis was?
Well, NXT used to be it still is quite a horny show. Yeah. It's not when it was like 2.0 levels of horny, but it is still quite a horny show.
Anyway, but not on my Monday Night Raw. It's PG still. However,
wait till it gets to Netflix.
Stab me in the back was enough. Anyway, the kind of like catching Dom, and then Rhea's going to go for the Riptide, and I was like, I'm going to see one now, and then Liv breaking it up was really good. It means there's something left for me to take. My only no, really, is you could have given us this graphic next week. We've still got 2 weeks to book before Bash at Berlin, and we've talked about this, how we tend to get there a week too early, and then we've got a go-home show where nothing happens. If you wanted to, you could Control-C, Control-V again next week, and then be like, I'm sick of this, we're challenging you. And have that moment next week, get a pop for that rather than just a graphic. And then you've got one more week. Do you know what I mean?
Point. Yeah, do you know what? I actually do agree with you on that one. I hadn't considered that either.
Yeah.
Only because I think I was quite excited.
It's not a criticism.
No, of course it's not. I think because I was so excited by the match lineup, because I think it's such a... You mentioned it last week, and I was like, this is such a good idea. It's such a smart bit of business. Because it gives you everything in one match, which is you want to see Rhea get her hands on Dom, and you want to save the rematch of Rhea and Liv, and you want to save the match between Priest and Finn. Yeah. So this gives you a pay-per-view match that gives you something you want to see, while also eking out the other things you want to see. So it's a huge bit. It's a great successful bit of booking.
And I'm trying to think of like things where what your choices you can make with the match. There's almost something I like in the idea of Rhea getting the pin on Dominik because Priest and Finn have run away and Liv is maybe taken out already. And I don't know the mixed match rules or anything.
Riptide to Dom, and she pins Dom.
Yeah,
in that pinning position as well, so it looks like that she is domming him.
Or she pins the champ and she gets a rematch because she's pinned the champ. Like, you've got your options there. Either way, it's a really good choice. I don't mind that it was Control C, Control V. But
yeah, well, I think maybe it's I'm not bothered by it because that makes it sound like I didn't like it, because I did, and I think maybe it's because like last week I was like, I don't know why you're not treating this new group seriously, and I get that people's criticism against my thoughts there is that this is not a new group, this is still, but it is like it's
a new and improved Judgment Day to their mind,
to them, and they do keep calling it the new Judgment Day to the point where WrestleVotes reported yesterday they're going to get a new name.
I don't think they should.
Yeah, so the new name reportedly is going to be Street Trash,
which makes no sense because Damien Priest was the Street Trash. So
yeah. So they are a new group, they're a new faction. But this is a new faction that just gets beaten up all the time. Like they just lose matches and get beaten up.
I had that in my mind. The comeback I've got for you is that was the point of Imperium. That was the point of Vinci and Kaiser, was to take the pin so that Gunther didn't, and it never made Gunther look weak. So for me in this moment, Finn is the leader.
Absolutely.
Carlito is taking a pin, big whoop. JD McDonough taking a pin.
But he is one half of the tag champions.
Yeah, but Priest was world champion. So like on the order of the rankings. At the moment, I get it.
I take your point as well, because like in the rankings, it's Finn then Dom.
Yes,
then it's JD.
Exactly, and also we don't want to pin Dom yet because we want to save that for Berlin.
Oh yeah, you don't want to do the singles match now. No.
Priest has really yet to even get his hands on Finn properly, so that's making me want to see it more.
Which is why I think a beatdown angle.
Right.
Like it's if they had laid them out last week and then they got some retribution this week, or they got their retribution last week and then they laid them out this week. It was them laying waste to them.
They didn't get Finn though.
No, but they got
yeah, but Finn's the important part.
Okay, but
the lackeys I don't really mind.
My point is still like they are just standing tall all the time. So
but they're the baby faces, so they should.
Yeah, but you also want to get some heel heat. Like you want to make your heels look imposing, and you want to put them over as more than just because then later on,
I see what you're saying.
Then later on they're kind of this spooky promo, and I've got a bit of Pure Fusion Collective.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're called, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've got a bit of a vibe of that, which is they keep cutting these promos, being like, "We run Monday Night Raw. We're the force we reckon with," and they lose all the time.
I see what you're saying. I think for me, the heel heat on Balor is coming from the fact that he keeps saying, "I'm going to stab you in the back," and then running away, and that is making me. It's like you're a coward. Stand up and face the guy. I want to see you get battered, so it works for me in that regard because ultimately, I'm going to be rubbing my hands together when Priest and Balor finally face off, and I think that's why it's working.
And I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
And the only reason I bring it up is because we talked about this last week. I also think you want to try and establish this group as something important, as opposed to just being like the people that get beaten up so that Damien Priest and Rhea Ripley can stand tall and we can get a babyface pop. You want to add some heel heat to the group than just a couple of the individuals within that group.
Maybe. I see. I'm thinking several steps ahead.
And I'm not even saying it's as criticism. I'm just saying that it's like, as I said last week, it wasn't a criticism last week either. I was just surprised that the group didn't get a moment to shine. And so then week 2 of them, I'm probably surprised again that they did not get a time to shine again.
I mean, maybe they will over the next couple of weeks.
That's
because we do have more, so you're right.
We've got time to do that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I thought it was a good segment. But overall, like it's a thumbs up segment for me. Overall, I think the win is the match.
Yeah, big time.
Because I think it's...
Don't you want to see it?
Well, Rhea's going to...
What's going to make you sit down on the 31st?
Rhea's going to hit Dom with the Riptide, and we get to see that. And that's what that will be the moment we wait for while we're then building towards the 2 singles matches. It's effective.
Yeah.
But let's see what you think about this in the Ultrachats. And Ket kicks things off to say, I have a feeling we're going to get another Edge versus Judgment Day feud. Rhea and Damien is going to get all the wins while the others get treated like jokes. Ironically, that feud was booked mostly under Triple H. I really hope I'm wrong. I hated that Edge Judgment Day feud. But
I did and I didn't.
Well, I've been on record on this podcast. I hated that feud because Edge just won everything. Like
yes.
The whole feud was Edge beats the Judgment Day, apart from the one time where they won because Edge beat himself
by quitting.
Because of Beth. But they didn't make him quit. They were just going to beat up Beth.
Yeah.
So he quit on her behalf.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh no, the Judgment Day just lost all the time.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the feud, Edge just won again.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, what was the point of any of that then? And if we end up in the situation, kind of what Ket is theorizing here, which is just Dom and Rhea beat them all the time, then they win at the end. What did we really accomplish in all of that?
And the thing is, I think maybe it's a naivety on my part. Maybe it's just overly optimism. I always think there's an answer in the end. I don't know what that answer is, and I've been in trouble in the past for fantasy booking myself, and then thinking that makes me not enjoy it. But I don't know yet. I think it was important for Rhea and Priest to have a couple of weeks where they still look to set them up as furious. We've still got time for them to have a moment, I think.
That's all I need. I want to see a good beatdown angle of those to establish, and that's not to say that they can't do it. And like because if they're on next week's show, then you're grand and it's fine.
I don't want to talk too long, but the other side of this coin is if we had 2 weeks of this, the argument would be that Priest and Rhea look silly.
Of course.
And that's, I think this one, I think establishing your baby faces is harder, and this one was more important. So JD McDonough can eat a pin. Sorry.
I disagree on that one, because I think you could have had Damian Priest beat Carlito, but then still had the Judgment Day beat him up afterwards. You could have done, and like you can accomplish both things. And you're right. Like if you'd have just had the Judgment Day beat up the Terror Twins 2 weeks in a row, then we'd have sat here and been like, man, when do they get their comeback? Granted, as babyfaces, they're going to make their comeback. So I don't think it would have been as much of a like, man, they're making them look weak, because you're just building the anticipation for when they do make their comeback. And Ryan here said, missed the first 10 minutes due to an issue with the USA app broadcasting 911 instead of Raw. Best part was the burn by Rhea to Dom and not getting deep enough, slowly moving away from the PG era to Netflix.
Just don't start saying the F word every promo.
And Adita said, Rhea's bass promo voice is a bit too slow and low energy. Her aura makes up for it, but in a go nowhere segment with Liv's poor promo ability and a strange crowd, I'm not surprised that Rhea got watted.
It is interesting. It's all about this. We saw it a little bit later on in the show with the Pete Dunne promo, where there is a style of promo delivery that people assume sounds badass or sounds like intense, and actually the slowing down of it is not necessarily what you're after. You want the rhythm, you want the dynamics, the up and downs. Like it's an interesting one.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I disagree about the Rhea promo style. So I think her promo style is ace, and more often than not, it works.
When there's a bit of fire in there, I think that's the difference for me.
Well, let's get into the rest of the show. That was the first half an hour was all of the Judgment Day stuff. We then had backstage Ivy Nile speaking with Maxxine, who was with the Alpha Academy, and says, "Hey, look."
Did you hear what before she pulled away? Did you hear what Otis said? He was like hyping up Tozawa. Ivy comes over and like, "Can I talk to you, Maxxine?" And they sort of move away, and Otis whispers into Tozawa's ear, just goes, "That's Ivy. She's with the Queens." And I was like, thank you for that little bit of exposition there, Otis. Lovely.
Although Ivy, clearly not paying attention to TV, just said like, "Hey, look, I'll speak to Chad about you joining the group." I'm like, "Bud, she doesn't want to join the group." Also, Chad's been mean to her. But she was like, I'm okay, thanks. And I was like, cool. You're so turning heel on Maxxine later tonight. We had a Bo Dallas VHS promo where he said that something big is happening, but it's not done yet.
What was the repeated phrase? What was the refrain? Open the doors. Other doors are open.
Yeah, and it's all about how the spirit of Bray was with them last week. We later got
full circle.
Yeah, we later got a promo from Chad Gable from France, who said like, "I've got unfinished business with the Wyatt." So I'd imagine we're going to get the Chad Uncle Howdy match at Bash.
I was keen. I enjoyed this little.
Yes, I mean the editing is so good.
And the performance is good.
Bo's killing it.
It's really good.
We got a recap of Odyssey Jones' debut, and then Xavier Woods walked backstage to find Kofi and Odyssey Jones hanging out. And Kofi's like, "Hey, we should be ringside for his match coming up next," which was him versus Vincent Winey. And Odyssey.
Was that you doing a bit?
No, I was just double checking because when I read it,
it was Vincent Winey, but like you also went Winey, and I was like, "Oh, he's been funny,"
because it's written Vincent Winnie.
Yeah, it is. Well, no, Winey. If it was two ends, it would be Winnie.
I guess so. But when I read it on the prompter earlier, I had a bit of a Ron Burgundy moment where I just said Winnie.
You with a Ron Burgundy moment, never.
And then I paused and I turned to editor Wes, and I was like, "It's Winey, isn't it?"
Yeah.
But I just kept it in the edit. So Odyssey Jones won with the Boss Man Slam. Final Testament came out, and Cross mentioned that Kofi isn't replacing Big E with Odyssey Jones. He's replacing Xavier Woods with Odyssey Jones. And Woods is about to suggest a tag team match, but Kofi Kingston grabs the microphone from his hand and starts suggesting a 6-man tag instead, which Cross accepts. I've then written in my notes here, Xavier Woods is making this storyline.
Well, yeah, and I actually really liked this whole bit because Xavier Woods is our sort of POV character. He's the one who we arrive in a scene with and the one we're left with at the end of it. We're experiencing this through he's basically in control of it. And as a result, what I found during this match was that for the first time, probably in about 10 years, Kofi was a lot. Like he was super a bit much.
And Woods is justified in being a little bit pissed off about all of this.
What's interesting? Well, is he or isn't he?
Kofi's doing all of this behind his back. He's not involving him in any of the conversation. He took the microphone out of his hand.
This is where I'll get onto this. But what I'm seeing is Kofi's like, hey, this is a guy who's our mate. He supports us. And Woods isn't keen on a new friend who really doesn't seem to be doing anything other than trying to lift them both up. He seems to be like, yeah, I love you. You're great, Woods.
Why didn't you tell him last week then that Odyssey Jones is going to come back us up?
He didn't know.
Kofi knew.
Did he know?
Kofi knew. Like, he revealed that was part of his plan, which is he'd include Woods and he was doing it.
Oh, well, yeah, but like, right, whatever. Sure, fine, whatever. You've got your face on, which makes me feel like you're about to troll me.
I'm not trolling.
You've got your trollable chief face off.
I'm not trollable chiefing you.
I'm a bit scared of it. Either way,
I liked this. By the way.
My point being was that Kofi being quite grating here because Woods, and he's not actually doing anything out of the ordinary. We're used to these matches where they're throwing out pancakes, where they're playing, what's the name of the trombone? Alyssa? Shaniqua?
I can't remember
Deborah? What's it called?
He just used to do the Final
trombone.
Fantasy.
Jessica? What was his name?
He used to do the Final Fantasy Win music on it. That was the only thing I really remember from it.
Someone in the chat will let me know the name of the trombone. But we're used to that from the New Day, and yet in this moment I was like, Kofi, shut up, like, you're being so annoying, because that's what Woods has told me my energy should be, which I think is so effective. And then so when Woods is actually getting a bit more confident and having to go back at Cross, for Kofi specifically to say the words and quote, I've got a better idea. That was a real neg from Kofi.
I mean, I loved we mentioned this. I mean, I say I love that bit. It was like 4 months ago at this point, but when it was the lower third, that was Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods in smaller text. Like, it's everything that Woods is kind of annoyed about, and it's all inward annoyance as well, which is why I think he's making the storyline for me. I think his performance is so great. Like, Kofi is really good in this, and obviously Jones is doing his bit, and the Final Testament are who the Final Testament are, but Xavier Woods is putting on some acting chops in all of this. And I think every time I see him on screen, I'm like, I'm siding with you, bud. I honestly, I'm siding with you in all of this.
How this Kofi behavior, which is perfectly
Francesca,
thank you so much. I knew you'd come through. But like, this is the point. Like, Kofi's behavior is everything I love about the New Day, and yet because Xavier is so good, I'm annoyed at it.
Yeah, it's really,
it's wild.
Pierce was looking to make something official, which we later found out was the tag match. Drew walks in and they let him know that Punk has got travel issues, and so he's going to be late tonight, or he might not even be here tonight.
See, that is a good GM who doesn't fire you because you missed a plane.
Hey, you could have got like $300,000 for it, and use that to not buy logistics.
Drew's pay Katana Chance instead.
Drew is asking why Randy is getting a title shot because he was screwed out of a world title shot, which is also
and he's on SmackDown. They made a point of saying it, so that's not a brand split the whole thing if they acknowledge it.
And he said he's going to sort this out, but don't worry, I'll be on my best behavior for it, because he's like, look, I don't want you Bronson Reeding this situation. We've got Alpha Academy versus American Made in a Texas Tornado match.
That reminds me, I need to go shopping later on. Get a new set of jeans. That's a cut-off denim jacket from American Made. Love their stuff.
Obafemi was at ringside and at a stare down with Otis, because Obafemi had as an open challenge on NXT tomorrow.
I wonder who's going to answer.
Well, Otis, as a social thing, Otis accepted the challenge.
Yeah.
I made this joke in the news today. I was like, where's the story? And some people took me seriously, so I'm not going to make that joke again.
Trouble Chief. But like, they could have done a bit where like Obafemi was shown before, because he was just sort of standing there. It was a bit weird. Give me a moment where he sat down watching. Obafemi's got an open challenge tomorrow night. Otis goes down and has a look at him. Do it that way.
Yeah.
But that is a nitpick.
I will have him open, at the start of the show as well. Like, he's here to like scout talent and stuff.
Yeah.
And then as opposed to just being like, he's here for this one segment.
This one segment, weirdly staring at Otis.
By the way, a lot happened in this segment.
Oh my God.
Because not only did you have the Obafemi thing, you had the Chad Gable promo about the Whites. Then you had a match. And within that match, you had a heel turn that led to a distraction finish.
Yeah.
There's a lot happening in this match.
This was
in this segment.
Texas Tornado.
And it was a very fun Texas Tornado match. Crowd was super into Otis. Michael Cole at one point said that Otis is a heavy machinery type of wrestler.
Fully did.
The match got a little bit ugly towards the end. There was this superplex spots and sort of like a powerbomb thing that was like had some rough landings all over it. And then Tozawa did this like his senton thing was like all back.
And a bit of leg drop on Otis for good measure. Also, he had a tricky suicide dive, which, can I just say, not only did he manage to avoid a pretty devastating landing. The way he was able to just get back up and make me sort of forget it is credit.
But Ivy attacked Maxine at ringside. This distracted the Academy, and they used that distraction to roll up to Tozawa and get a pin.
Mm-hmm. I enjoyed this match. I thought it was fun how the crowd warmed up to it. I don't know. I kept looking to try and find exactly where it was that Julius Creed's hand started bleeding everywhere, but it definitely added to it. There was something about it in terms of they all looked a bit gassed by the end of it. They all looked a bit exhausted, which it's a weird comparison to make. But we were talking on the Collision review yesterday about the Swerve Ishii match, and about
oh man, I've seen some discourse about that match.
Ours was
by thick arseholes.
Well, ours was the great conversation because we were not of that mind. Where what we were saying was essentially it's this thing of, and it kind of ties into trigger warning, the Olympics, where I'll watch these athletes and these wrestlers and these judo people compete and they'll hit each other and whatever, and then they're just knackered, but they're trying to find a way to push through, and that's obviously what you're trying to sell. There was an energy of that in this match as well, where it was like, oh Jesus, like he's just sat on me and he's Otis, he's massive, he's just dropped me with the world's strongest slam, and like they were finding a way to get back into it. So I kind of really liked the weird chaotic energy that it had. It was sloppy.
It's what you want from a Texas Tornado.
But exactly that.
So trigger warning for you. I was at the Rev Pro show at the weekend.
Independent wrestling.
And that had a Lucha Rules 4-way tag match.
Uh-huh.
And that was just everyone's in the ring at the same time. Everyone's just doing moves, doing spots. Sunshine Machine was like a perfect little match to put them in and stuff. And I had a really, really fun time with it because I love a Texas Tornado tag match because it is just spots.
Yeah.
And I had a wonderful, wonderful time. I thought this was very, very entertaining.
Yeah.
And as a segment we mentioned earlier, accomplished a lot.
The Ivy turn as well, I thought she looked fantastic. Yeah. I know. Like, I thought Maxine was doing a very good selling job. She's come up against an awful lot of flack for various different reasons, but I've always been a Maxine fanboy, and I thought that her selling of Ivy's turn made me buy it.
Yeah. Just to clarify my point as well, when I said that the discourse over that Ishii Swerve match was being done by thick assholes, it's not the people. I know Tempest has had the thing of like it's from people who don't like watching wrestling. I'm not of that opinion. I'm more of the people who are just like, why is Ishii selling? It's like, well, if you wait 10 seconds and there's clip, he starts selling.
That's where I was talking about the intensity of it. And we see it a little bit later on in the 2 out of 3 falls match. There are moments where there's selling and using your energy, and it's an art. It's an art within the art of wrestling.
People were acting like it was the Evilise Thunder Rosa sandbagging match that was on Dynamite way back in the pandemic era, but it was not that at all. Like he literally sells in the clip that people are sharing online, claiming that he's not selling anything. It's absolutely madness. Backstage, earlier in the day, Jackie interviewed Pete Dunne, who said that Sheamus was holding him down. He doesn't want to ever hear the name Butch again. Sheamus really cared about the boys. What happened to Rich Holland? Why is he not hanging out with him anymore? I don't like that name Butch. He was holding me down. I'm Pete Dunne. I'm the bruiserweight, and I'm going to show him what I mean.
I saw the film Alien Romulus yesterday. No spoilers. So no spoilers. I enjoyed it.
That seems like a lot for Monday morning, though.
It was. It was.
But the email came through. It's like, do you want to see Alien Romulus at 9:30 on a Monday morning? I was like, kind of, yeah, but also that's a lot for 9:30.
It was a lot, especially after the Sunday that I'd had. But it was like, but point being, the reason I bring it up, and again, no spoilers because I'm not allowed because of an embargo. But there is a character in there with a Midlands accent, and then we got one hit. The Midlands are being represented very strongly in American media at the moment, so good for them.
About time.
Very hard for me to take anybody with a Brummie accent seriously. Oh, you're an Aardman, are you? Why'd you talk like that then? I'm from Dudley. My name's not Butch anymore. I'm not Butch. All right, mate. No, I'm joking. I'm being fully facetious. I like that.
We're allowed to do that though because we're from this country.
Yeah. I don't have anything to say about Americans ever.
We, as a nation, one of our favorite pastimes is to make fun of other people's accents because we're such a region accent heavy country. We're such a small island. The way that things change from like, if you go up in Dudley and everything like that, and then you go down to the West Country, it's a completely different vibe.
We have different words for like alleyways.
Yeah, totally. Or even like scraps that you get in fish and chips. Like everywhere's got their own different things for it. Like I think in the Midlands they call them scrimps.
Yeah, that's why over here we call it all. I started the joke and I didn't have a punchline. I hope I get there. Never mind. Anyway, look. So Butch's promo, Pete Dunne's promo. Sorry, Pete Dunne. Your name is Pete Dunne. I liked that we were getting more context. Do you know what I mean? And it was a very good point. Where's Ridge? Also, by the way, Sheamus is on the run of his career, thanks to us.
Yeah.
Whether or not you agree with that, justification.
Well, this is it. And at the end of it, Michael Cole's like, he's just bitter. And I'm like, about what?
Good point.
Like, he's right.
Good point.
I think Pete Dunne's actually right again. We had a promo for Bronson Reed that contained raw physics.
Yeah.
And it was just a lot of, he is massive. And then because of that, it's force times weight plus speed equals 10,000 pounds on Seth Rollins.
This feels like it's one of those Pat Telestrator situations where I imagine it's... I have actually seen one or two people say something like, I like this because it kind of like pointed to something that happens on ESPN and stuff like that. We don't really get that kind of package in our sports coverage. We do a bit, but it's a little bit more analytical. It's less like hard claim. It's less like that. So that was a throwback for the NRB gang. But like, yeah, I'm looking forward to this kind of thing growing on me a little bit.
You think they're going to do more of it, the raw physics?
I feel like they might.
Like they introduce it as going to be a recurring segment.
Do you know?
So yeah,
and there's a way they can. It's a by the numbers segment, the Royal Rumble, but for everybody.
Well, this is it. I wrote in my notes. This is Bronson Reed by the numbers.
Yeah, and like, look, they're trying a whole bunch of things. The lower thirds have stuck around, telling us what happened earlier in the show, what's coming up.
Your backstage interview.
Much rather that than a lot more moments ago. It fills more time. They're trying loads of stuff, and I really appreciate it. I don't know if this one is for me, but.
Backstage, Adam Pearce told Bronson Reed that he got fined twice for his actions last week. One for doing what he did to Seth Rollins, but also for speaking about it on Twitter. So he got fined for 2 times. And Bronson Reed's like, look, I want a match or I'm going to find another victim. Cool. It's a cool presentation. Seth Rollins, by the way, the report is he is taking time off. He is battered. So kind of a rough old year for Seth Rollins.
Well,
he got injured right at the start of the year, came back, did WrestleMania, took time off because he was hurt. Has been back for like a month and a half, 2 months, and is now back as he's out hurt again because he's just like he's dealing with a lot of pain. He's been wrestling for a long time and like carrying the company on his back for a good portion of that.
And if you've not stretched properly, that's painful. I feel like it's kind of interesting because the report is that he's just taking time off. It's not necessarily that he's specifically injured, and actually he came back a lot sooner than I thought he was going to come back. So I wonder whether or not it was one of those calls of like, can you come back, work one match, be a special referee, and we can keep this story alive, and then we'll write you off TV again for a little while to keep Seth in the conversation with Punk and Drew and keep it afloat and keep it alive to push us all the way to WrestleMania. And if that's the case, I think that's a really smart bit of planning from the whole team, including Seth.
And putting over a new guy on the way out.
Oh my God, if that's what's happened, it's achieved so much.
It really has. Damage Control cut a promo, and the Pure Fusion Collective cut a return promo.
Sounds like a razor I bought the other week.
Well, I did say it sounds like a WWE replay sponsor.
A little bit.
Yeah.
This is the Pure Fusion Collective. Michael Cole struggled with it all night.
These replays brought to you by Pure Fusion Collective.
Yeah, it's an insurance company.
Yeah. Damage Control then took on Pure Fusion Collective. You'll never guess, lads. Pure Fusion Collective suck and they were about to lose. But you'll never guess what, lads. They're setting up a triple threat for next week. So DQ finish.
I was disappointed in the DQ finish, but I did...
You didn't see it coming?
No, I was disappointed in it.
You can't be disappointed in something if you know it's coming.
I suppose. I liked what they were doing. I liked the work. I know when you say Pure Fusion Collective suck, it's not because of the context of their wrestling. It's because of the way they're being treated.
It's because they always they lose. Like they were going to lose last week, but then a match ended in DQ. Then Sonya lost, and they were about to lose this match here, but got saved by a DQ.
Right.
So that's 3 losses in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and actually what I was getting here was a little moment of, okay, giving them time and they're actually wrestling and they're reminding us that Io Sky and Kairi Sane are quite good actually, and actually Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark are also quite good actually. We're getting a little bit of a bit of momentum. So that's why I was disappointed that it was bookended by a DQ finish where the champions are standing tall holding their belts and Michael Cole says, maybe they think they might be dominant. And I'm like, well, they're the champions and they're standing tall, so they should be.
But also, I just watched Alba Fyre get squashed by Jade Cargill on SmackDown.
Sure, and then elsewhere at the beginning of this, the 2 promos were dominant. On SmackDown, we get the US title division is now alive, right?
Sure is.
We were talking about it with taking the title from Logan Paul, putting it on LA Knight, and suddenly everyone is competitive. And Andrade and Carmelo had a fantastic match a couple of weeks ago where the loser didn't look weak because they lost a competitive match. And the same thing happened with Andrade and Escobar this week. For me, I quite liked the match, and I actually liked the ending as well.
Me too.
I thought it smartly set
really
up a
good
great
match.
contender for LA Knight, gave Andrade and Carmelo something else to do, and also allowed Andrade to have a claim going forward. I thought it was really smart.
I really liked it.
They have been given time. They have been given opportunities to showcase their work and look strong. Apply that same logic over here in the women's tag division, and the problems will start fixing themselves, because it does take a while and it takes time. This was showing me signs of potential, but the faff around it didn't work. Is that fair?
I think that's fair.
I mean the content of the match before. I saw good wrestling from them, and I know we have it in them.
That's WWE through and through. Like that's even when like 2019, when it was like real bad. Is that even if the storyline sucked, which they often did, the in-ring work was usually really good because they're talented wrestlers.
Yeah.
So even though the booking is not particularly strong around the women's tag scene, which I just don't think it is. Like I don't think this pure Fusion Collective
PFC
and Damage Control thing is really working, because they're both just arguing over something, and one of them just keeps losing all the time. And I don't think this Unholy Union tag run is working either, because they show up in here and like, yeah, we're a dominant team, and then I'm, no, I just watched you get squashed by Jade Cargill on SmackDown, so I don't think you are a dominant team at all, actually. So I don't think the booking around this division is particularly good, but the in-ring work is good because they're all talented wrestlers. So when the bell rings, it's all fine.
If anything, and that maybe this is me being too polite, but it shows how hard it is to book. Like sometimes you should have all the right ingredients, and it just doesn't work for one reason or another. Because what we've got here, there were 6 women in the match, plus Jade and Bianca, plus the Party Girls, Lyra Valkyria, Blair Davenport, Naomi. Like the roster is screaming with talent. Kiana James still isn't around. Like, there's yeah. Like, there's so much talent around, and yet it's the pieces just aren't in the right place. And I just can't. It's one of those things where it's so easy for me to sit here and say you're doing this wrong. I then sit down and think, well, how would I fix it? And the answer is, if there's not enough depth of roster, then someone is going to have to win and lose. So what do you do in that scenario? And I don't know, and it's frustrating me. It's frustrating.
It is frustrating. But again, you can almost compare this to the issue that Dynamite has had for the last 5 years, where if you only have one women's match on the show,
this is it.
You are going to struggle to tell more compelling stories in your women's division.
And actually, that's a great thing to invoke, I think, because their women's division has... We saw on Collision this past weekend a great Texas Bull Rope match that was in no way related to a championship. And
no, I've said for years on this show, you don't need to have titles in order to have good storylines. You just need good characters and good wrestling within there. And you know the magic happens around that. But like Dynamite is now starting to get a good women's division, and it sort of coincides with the fact they're now doing 2 women's matches a week.
I know this is it. I know they can do it.
Yeah, of course they can do it. At the moment, they're choosing not to, but they can do it. And like this match going 2 minutes longer than the Bronson Reed squash match, I don't think helps these things.
And the 2 minutes on SmackDown, yeah.
And also, I am so done with the DQ formula set of triple threat matches. Like we've been doing it now for 2 years, and I'm quite over it because I can smell it coming a mile away. Truth was trying to cheer up the Miz from their loss last week. Did they lose last week?
Yes. Yeah, to A-Town Down Under.
That's right. Yes, it was A-Town Down Under. And he said, look, I've got you a match with Bron Breakker. And Miz was like, hey, that's great. I was like, I don't know why you're excited. He's going to destroy you. And then the realization set is like, hang on, Bron's already got a match. And Truth's like, yeah, I've got you with this guy. And it's with Bronson Reed. LOL. And Randy Orton walks up and he does some comedy with The Miz as well.
They were, isn't that the guy that killed Seth? I quite like that. I like this comedy. Sorry. I'm sorry to this man.
You don't have to apologize for enjoying bad comedy. Coronation Starscream. This was just bad comedy.
What's that?
That's from Transformers the movie. Watch a film, will you? Get some culture.
I've seen so many films, but if you only watch this podcast, you'd think I've never been to the cinema in my life. This is nuts. What is my problem?
Can I give it a shout out as well? The Cultaholic interview with MJF. Jack makes reference to the Rocky movies.
Great.
And MJF goes, oh, I've never seen him.
I always knew I liked that guy.
It's so good. Anyway, Randy Orton came out for a promo. He said that 20 years ago, more or less to the day, is when I won my first world title. Don't say who it was from. And at Bash in Berlin, I'm going to win my 15th world championship. Gunther comes out, and Orton's like, also, by the way, if I do win, I'm going to be moving to Monday Night Raw. And Gunther had this great line where, Gunther had this really good line where it's like, Randy Orton, you are one of the greatest of all time. But really, you should be the greatest of all time. You're just wasted potential. And in my era, you won't play that sort of, I won't allow you to play that sort of role. And Randy owned up. He's like, look, I've made mistakes. I've taken a lot of liberties since I've been here. I've made plenty of mistakes, but I've also worked to kind of overcome a lot of the things that I have done wrong. And then he was like, and also, I'm an American, and I've got kids, and I've got this. And the crowd started chanting USA. And Gunther was like, you're quite predictable. And I was like, much like this crowd, because you mention America, USA chants ring through. But when it really matters, you screw up. It just comes naturally to you, because your grandfather was a screw-up, and your dad's a screw-up, and you're a screw-up. Drew McIntyre then comes out, and Gunther, and I thought this was a lovely little bit of business here, took his eye off the ball for just one moment, and after saying that Randy Orton was oh so predictable, got caught with an RKO out of nowhere, which plays off the promo from last week, which was, you will not catch me with an RKO from out of nowhere. I thought all of that stuff was really, really good. Honestly, this Gunther Randy stuff was my favorite thing on the show.
I loved it too. First of all, when he comes out and he's singing, the American crowds have started singing. They've taken our cue and they're running with it, and I appreciate that. But if you're going to sing his theme, do the second half of the chorus. Don't let me down. It's they do the, I have voices in my head, they talk to me, and then they just go silent. No, see, the second half is the best bit, because you're drunk, you got your drink in the air. Tell me things. Come on, commit. Either way.
Maybe they don't know the words.
They should learn the words.
Not everyone can have time to learn words, Dan.
That song, I insist. However, the actual segment was delicious.
Yeah.
You will never be world champion again is a great line to put out there so casually that it's going to get under Randy Orton's skin, especially because how much they hyped that he's on his way to equaling the Flair and Cena record if he can manage it. With
2 more wins.
Yeah, that's what he's on the way. Yeah. Like, he can get there.
Yeah.
With 2 more wins. They were selling it and hyping it and pointing it out. Makes me think, okay, well, yeah, we are going to go down that line, and I like it. Also, Gunther's arrogance shows that he can come apart because he turned his back. Very nice. I think a lot of people think this is going to be Gunther's match to win. It just is a thing that they're just doing because it was convenient, and it's a great use of a flub that went wrong, turned it to your advantage.
May as well play off it.
Exactly. One of Triple H's greatest strengths as a booker is his ability to do that. But this shows that Gunther's weak and can be used. Yeah. What I would genuinely really like, and it sort of plays off what we saw a little bit later on when, spoiler alert, is walking down the corridor behind him. Gunther is fuming and smacks a pack of water all over the floor, really cross with himself that he was caught. I would love for Gunther to be having a match, cutting a promo, out of the crowd comes Randy Orton, goes for an RKO out of nowhere, and Gunther pushes him off, and we show that he's learned. Yeah. So that if and when Gunther does retain, Randy is like, oh man, maybe I'm not as effective. Maybe I am part of the old generation, and I can't hang with the new generation. Crap, and that starts playing into it as well. I thought there was a lot of stuff
which could then play nicely into the Cody feud.
Exactly, a lot of stuff very neatly and very subtly laid out here that I really, really enjoyed.
I thought this was really, really good. So Drew comes out to effectively cause this distraction, and yeah, also what's quite nice in as well, just to put a little pin on that Gunther Randy segment, is Gunther screwed up. He's there calling Randy this screw up.
Yep.
He screwed up in this moment.
Yep.
I thought that was really, really effective. But Punk comes out and he brawls with Drew, and through some happenstance, they get Drew's belt and he starts whipping him. So they're likely setting up a strap match for the pay-per-view.
Again, very, very good for Berlin.
Yeah.
Very appropriate for Berlin.
This will come out in the 3 count that'll come out this weekend. I think that the strap should be made out of the bracelets.
You want a friendship bracelet match?
A friendship bracelet match.
You've never. They are very, very easily broken. I don't think it's gonna work.
No?
I like your style.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think outside the box sometimes.
Sometimes it's good to be in the box. But also this serves Drew right for wearing a belt with jeans.
Do you not wear belts with jeans?
Sometimes I do.
Well, I was gonna say, they're too loose. Don't want your butt crack hanging out, do you?
Sometimes you do. Yeah, I like a strap match. And it feels good, and it feels like it works. It feels like a good way to set it up.
Because it's Drew running away from Punk. Yeah. This way, Drew can't run away from Punk. Very, very nice stuff. Jackie interviewed Sheamus backstage. Ludwig Kaiser walked up to say that they have unfinished business, and Pete Dunne attacked Sheamus from behind and seemingly injured his hand. I could see them doing, probably not on the 5-match card for Bash of Berlin, but I would do Sheamus Kaiser as a pre-show match.
Or one of the go home Raw main events.
Well, I'm only saying because you want to get Kaiser on the Germany show, right? That's true. That's a kind of a WWE method.
That's true.
So you probably want to get him involved in something.
Yeah.
Unless you put him in, you do a 4-way for the Intercontinental Championship. And then we had that moment where Gunther was annoyed and Punk saw him do this. And Punk was sort of staring down at Gunther. So they're setting up, they're going to do Punk and Gunther. Maybe that's one of your Survivor Series matches. Maybe that's your Survivor Series World Championship match. And Punk revealed to Jackie that, or it might have been Kathy, actually.
It was Kathy, thank you.
My apologies.
Might have been Kathy, actually. Know your audience. You can get away with that.
Get some culture.
Not my Kathy.
Punk said, I lied about my travel because I wanted, because I knew if I said that I was here, then Drew would just run away from
Again,
me.
with the running away.
Yeah.
All good.
We then got The Miz versus Bronson Reed. They showed AEW's Mark Henry because this company cannot build their own stars, apparently.
God's sake.
OTC, original troll chief, reporting for duty. I took that line out of the edited review because I knew that sarcasm was not going to land in the edited review.
It's all about context.
It is all about context. This match went way longer than you'd think.
It really did.
It went 6.5 minutes.
Got to protect the Miz, former world champion.
Well, I guess so. Yeah. And Miz got in. Got some licks in. But then Reed hit the tsunami on him. Truth then tried to stop Reed from doing another tsunami, so he just did it onto him while he was standing up, which was really cool. Then he kept doing more and more and more. Security and everyone, that the security sucks, they can't stop him doing it. Adam Pearce runs down to yell at him. He sucks as well, so Reed just keeps on doing it. Good little action for our Truth.
2 things. First of all, the length of this match and the fact that Miz got some licks in, I was like, I don't know if this is going to go down well. I think people are going to be a bit cross that all that amazing work they did last. Oh no, don't worry, he's doing 6 more tsunamis. That's fine. That's fine. It's pulled it all the way back in.
But also, it's a case of getting in offense, but Reed never looks like he's in trouble.
That's true. That's very true.
You can do moves to someone.
Yeah.
But as long as you look like you are still in control of the match, it's not like.
No, you're dead right on that.
Ric Flair and Terry Funk used to do this a lot, which is that you just, if you're working with the jobbers, don't just beat them straight in 30 seconds. Let them do some moves to you, because if you beat them, then at least you beat someone.
Yeah, I mean, the part of me that was thinking that was more that Bronson Reed is being sold as this absolute weapon with physics and 167, a compression on Seth Rollins' chest. But it accomplished it anyway, and you are right, especially. Jokes aside, he is a former world champion. Yeah. He's not, shouldn't be sniffed at.
He was tag champion not that long ago.
Precisely. I will now need Bronson Reed to tsunami the ever-living crap out of Adam Pearce.
Gonna happen, right? I thought it might have happened in this segment.
I thought it would too, and I was like, oh no, save it. So I'm glad that they did. I want that at some point, because there's something about the sympathy of that I think is very needed for the Adam Pearce character, if that makes sense. I think it'd be really effective. We also haven't seen that kind of on GM violence in a very long time.
I thought we were going to do it with Bron Breakker.
Yeah,
we seemingly stopped all of the Bron Adam Pearce stuff, and we just shifted it to the other Bron.
I think this is more effective.
The Sun Reed kind of variety.
Or R-Truth. You make it. Also, all the shouts about R-Truth being a national treasure were quite funny.
And then our main event was Sami Zayn versus Bron Breakker for the Intercontinental Championship in a 2 out of 3 falls match. Sami got the first fall with hitting the haluva kick, that veteran instinct kicking in. Bron just taking his after ball for a moment there. Hit the haluva kick and got that, so he landed the first fall. Bron then hit this lawn dart on Sami over the timekeeper's area, which was absolutely awesome. He then got a second fall after hitting 2 spears. They did the announcer's table dive. Sami just about got in at 9. They did a couple of near falls and reversals and some ragdolling by Sami. And in the end, Bron hit a spear out of the air onto a diving Sami for the final fall. A very, very good main event.
Yeah.
Really, really good. Kind of ends off this Bron and Sami trilogy. And yeah, it was done. And now Sami and Jay can go off to do the tag titles.
It's one of those where I was like, I kind of wish this had been on a pay-per-view so it wasn't interrupted by ad breaks, but it didn't suffer too much for that.
I don't feel like it did, actually, yeah.
At all. And I think that is credit to both of them. I loved the Bronson Reed promo on the way to the ring. There was, especially when he's like, football guy. I'm like, hang on, is Bron Breakker a babyface? There's something about that reaction that gives it that anti-hero thing, which I really like an anti-hero. And sometimes when a wrestler is so good, it's hard to boo them.
Yeah.
And Bron Breakker has that energy because what he does is it's such a feat of human achievement that you're like, I've got to be impressed by that guy.
Yeah.
So I quite like that. I like that they did the idea of he took his eye off the ball for 1 second, but then got 2 falls in not quick succession, but one after the other falls. You could have done it the other way around and had Breakker come out and be dominant straight away, and then Sami gets the hell of a kick out of nowhere. You never count Sami Zayn out. But I think that again goes to show the credit of both of these people, that actually there were many different angles you could have gone down. That lawn dart, the filming of it. Oh, I like. That's all right. I'll keep going. The filming of it was very effective because it also had a moment of like when the camera gets boofed in the air. That makes me feel like I took it as well. Also, then that overhead shot, which made Sami like bounce like a creator wrestler. I thought this was real good and made Bron Breakker look like an absolute champ.
This is the thing I would say go out of your way to watch.
Yeah.
Because this was a really, really good main event. A really good like Raw TV main event, and it put over Bron, really strong. And so, yeah, big thumbs up for me on this one. As I said, now it frees Sami up to go with Jay to do some Bloodline stuff. Jay hyped Sami up before the match as well and made it clear that once you're done with this, me and you are going to go after the Judgment Day and we can, like, it's 2023 all over again and we can go for the tag belts.
And it also frees up Bron to do whatever we're going to do there.
Well, that's it. Like, my pitch would be Bron and Dragunov.
Yeah, and I think you can do that in 2 weeks because you've set up earlier on, months previously, the Ricochet stuff, the Dragunov stuff. Quite easily do another one.
Absolutely, yeah. Or if you want to, get
within 2 weeks,
or if you want to get Kaiser on the show, and you want to tie that into the Sheamus feud, then you can do a 4-way: Bron, Sheamus, Dragunov, and Kaiser. Like, I wouldn't be against that. I mean, I think I'd prefer the singles match, but I wouldn't be against the 4-way either. But yeah, I thought it was a thumbs up show. I had a good time.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you all so much for watching, and thank you to our wonderful Pledgehammers over at our newly revamped patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Head on over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk, if you don't mind, to check out our new rewards and our new exclusive bonus content that you can get over there. You can support us from as little as $2 a month. It helps us massively because YouTube ain't what it used to be, and their ad revenue sucks now, and it was bad before. So head on over there because we really do appreciate all of your support. And if you are one of our Pledgehammers at a certain level, you get your name read out on the show like these fine folk. Always leave the crowd wanting Brian Moore,
Chris Hellfire Brimstone,
Chris the Cypriot Sensation Patru,
the Blade Bearer Christopher Sordio,
All-Star Chuck Turner,
Daniel Sweet Mexican Chocolate Ibarra,
on top of the world and the top rope, David Sansone,
a tall, handsome guy who has goals in life, Delonta Blaine,
Dr. Hook, Nolan Evans,
Eli McCaig,
Eli McKay,
fine,
Always Shining, Gareth Albright,
and Geordie bus driver, Harry.
Oh, their poor Geordie bus driver, Harry. Thank you all so much for being wonderful Pledgehammers on Patreon.
I don't know where in the world it was, but it wasn't Newcastle.
We do love all of you and your support. Right, let's read out the rest of these Ultrachats when I get the document open. Will here said, "Hey guys, thought Raw was really good last night. Unfortunately, I didn't see the first hour because USA Network decided to preempt the first hour with a comedy show about an EMS squad. That being said, the Bash in Berlin card is stacking up to be quite nice."
I think it's a new show they're trying to make. New sitcom they've got going. I read about this earlier on, yeah.
They were sponsored by The Challenge, MTV's The Challenge.
They certainly were.
Episode of Raw. I only know that from Johnny Bananas because he was in season 2 of The Traitors USA.
Great.
And I think...
With Peppermint?
Yes. And I think someone else from The Challenge was also on the show. It might have been 2 other people from The Challenge on that show, but I can't remember who they were. Hilariously, they made it further than Johnny Bananas did, but I only remember Johnny Bananas' name.
Well, it's because his name is Johnny Bananas. Do you know who's on the next series of The Traitors?
Nikki Bella.
Nikki Bella.
Yeah, she's on season 3, that's right. Mike here said, "Was at the show last night, my first ever wrestling show.
Fun.
Crowd was hot all night. Happy they included the women's tag match, which we know has struggled in recent weeks for reaction. The big reason is EO is over. Needed more women's matches overall.
Just hard to fight someone as talented as Io Sky. You just let them go out and do what they do, and they're going to make people go, whoa! And if the others aren't quite there yet, how are they going to get there if they don't get the reps in? And main event's not enough.
Luke Kelly 94 said, "Hey guys, with Bad Blood not too far down the road, what feud would you like to see inside the cell? Punk versus Drew, Punk versus Rollins, Priest versus Balor, maybe something else." It's Punk Drew.
It's Punk Drew. And it is even funnier that it would then be the third match, because that is exactly what Hell in a Cell should be.
Yeah. Anonymous here said, "Hello guys, sorry to be this guy, but am I wrong for being completely over the Chad Otis rivalry? Personally, I would have been more invested if it wasn't so predictable. A swerve turn from Maxxine would have kept me more invested. Chad's IRL apprentice." So I don't think I needed a swerve turn from Maxxine to be invested in the storyline. I am kind of done with it though. And
when you think about your investment, the rivalry is on cooldown, to use the IGN parlance.
100%, and which is wild because it didn't even feel like they did the big angle.
Yes, I know what you mean,
yeah.
and I think we all, because I think because the news had come out that the Creeds were going to be in a stable and it was all feeding and it was all coming, we never got the big moment. We got a couple of them.
Yeah,
here and there.
I didn't even think it's got anything to do with the news coming out that Chad was going to be aligned with the Creeds, because they were doing that on TV as well. Chad,
I just mean like it felt like everything was drip fed to the point where nothing then actually happened. There was no big moment.
Yes, sorry, I see what you mean. I think that I do agree with.
Yeah,
because when they did the angle, I was like, oh, or maybe they're just going to do a bigger angle at a different point there, because that was not the big angle that we've been building towards. And then nothing ever came. And now we're just doing the same thing. Yeah, I don't even think this has hit its peak.
I think it never quite got there.
Yeah. Georgioni here said, "Last night was my first ever." Can we? Oh no, what? Like it's actually a different.
Two peoples.
"Last night was my first ever live WWE show. It was a great experience, but I was near the group in the crowd that started doing the what chant, so that soured it a little bit. It was made worse by the we want tables chants. Like, why? Keep up the great content, lads."
Oh, you are in the right place for this conversation. Being at a live wrestling show is a joyous experience. I'm genuinely, like, jokes aside, gutted I couldn't be at Rev Pro. It was. I've always wanted to go to a show at York Hall, and that would have been a fantastic one to go to.
You're missing the Copper Box show as well.
I am. I've got other commitments. But like, I've got Progress, and I've got All In. So
we're
like
the Progress show on the Monday.
I think so. Wait, what's the one on Friday?
Right Cabaret.
That one. I'm at Right Cabaret.
Yes.
Maybe I'll go to the Progress show on the Monday. That'd be fun. Either way, live wrestling is super fun, but you do every now and again encounter a legion of guys who've had maybe one or two beers and they go into business for themselves. And look, I suppose they're having fun in their own way.
Hardcore country.
Hardcore country is the big trade. go back to the shows before All In last year, because my God, that level of disrespect to Mickey James I will never stand for.
Julio Mendoza here said, "Hey lads, been a fan of the channel for a while. I want to say thank you for the entertainment, but Raw was good and excited for the mixed gender tag match. The only gripes I have are the women's tag title picture and no reverse atomic drop in any match." Well, yeah, that is actually -5 stars.
What's the bit? I don't know the bit.
Are you doing it like a reverse atomic drop?
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I know what the move is, but I don't know what the reference is.
I mean, well, Julio has mentioned before that he is a fan of that move. It's a bit of a meme online as well. Also, there's there used to be a Twitter account. I don't know if there is anymore. There used to be a Twitter account that was just Rick Rude selling reverse atomic drops.
Brilliant.
And it was Rick Rude doing masterful selling of reverse atomic drops.
That's the Rick Rude special.
Roach Senpai here said, "Why does WWE have a powerhouse like Shayna and they aren't doing anything with her on Fusion Reactor Team BS? WWE loves to focus on the same 2 to 3 women and everyone else is to the side, either fighting for worthless tag titles or whatever else."
I mean, this is why when people are talking about the secondary women's championship, I'm like, no, do these ones first. I don't think Rhea and Liv needs the title anymore. I think you could have it removed. Yeah. I mean, I've said too much already.
Mary Painesville Dan here said, "Hello Luke, hello other Dan, hope you're doing well. Any updates in regards to All In? Check out the show this coming Thursday when we're going to be reviewing AEW Dynamite, because we will have an announcement for what we'll be doing pre-All In." Prawl in, I like it. Also, have you seen Candice Michelle? The iconic women's wrestling legend was there. WWE sure know how to push the ratings.
It was good to see Candice Michelle. She looked great. She looked like proper what I expected Candice Michelle to look like at this point in her life.
I couldn't tell you what she looked like in 2006.
Get out of town. Of course she could. She had a great bob and she had a kicky dance routine for entrance music.
I'll believe
Let me show you what love is.
You can't just make up songs.
Let me show you how to move your body, move your body, move your body.
So 2006.
It was like it was everything Naomi wanted to be back at the time.
Absolutely dreadful stuff.
So good.
Real Double J here said, "Dan, If you can, please explain to Luke Raygun from the Olympics. Also, when the spirit of Julia Stiles from Save the Last Dance possesses you in a pub beer garden. Australia lost a succulent Chinese meal, but gained their Eddie the Eagle. Raw was fine.
First of all, raise your wontons up for the succulent Chinese meal guy. What a loss. A true legend of our time. Democracy manifest. I will explain those things, but the Save the Last Dance and calling her the Eddie the Eagle of Australia is so funny. I really respect it.
I do know who Raygun is. This is the breakdance.
No, we'll do it after the show.
Yeah, it's the breakdance thing, right?
That's the Eddie the Eagle thing.
Well, I have only seen this through Simpsons memes.
Right.
You got to give her one of these.
Speak your language.
Yeah. Tyrio Marcus here said, Luke, I'm really disappointed that you didn't book the most important match in wrestling history for next year's SummerSlam in our video predicting SummerSlam 2025 way too far in advance. I'm of course talking about Scott Steiner and Luke Owen versus CM Punk and Oliver Davis. Math is greater than pipe bomb.
I respect you and love you. I would do anything in my life to never have to watch that match take place.
It would be awful. From everyone involved.
Yeah, exactly.
And George Aroni is a new member. Thank you very, very much, everyone. And that is going to do it for this episode. I'm just going to end this poll and see what you thought of this episode. It's about what I expected, I think, in thumbs up, thumbs down. 72% thumbs up, 25% thumbs in the middle.
I think that's absolutely fair.
I think so indeed. So we will see you on Thursday, or will we? Because tomorrow we will have a special bonus episode of the WrestleTalk podcast going live at 3 p.m. tomorrow. But you'll just have to wait and see what it is. We will see you then.
Oh.
Until then, I've been Luke Owen, DAD. That has been the Professor Dan Layton. He's so handsome. Jam that jam.